Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here. Notice anything different? Oh, he's using a lav mic. How weird is that? So yes, I've decided to try a cheapo lav mic, and we'll see how that goes. That's why the audio sounds different. From now on, unless you guys absolutely hate this and you want to go back to the old ways, we'll be doing audio this way, so let me know what you think of it. In general though, I would expect my production flow to include this now, with a few exceptions. There are some videos I filmed before I got this set up. And so, like, notably, game hunting stuff from when I was in Japan, and this other video that'll be coming very soon. With the exception of those, it should mostly be the lav mic from now on, so let me know what you think of it. Anyway, moving on. So yes, welcome. This is PlayLoad. This is all my video game pickups for the month of November 2017. Well, not all. There are some exceptions. If you don't care about any backstory, you just want to see pickups, feel free to skip to the time code. Otherwise, okay, welcome. But yeah, so Black Friday happened. It's, of course, a big buying holiday in the United States and probably other parts of the world. Basically, a lot of stuff is cheaper, right? And so a lot of us go out and buy tons of stuff, and video games are no exception. But a lot of the stuff I bought online, so it's not here yet. And some of the stuff that I bought in person, I haven't opened yet for a very particular reason. I'm gonna give you a pro tip here on how to save some money if you're interested. So what I do most of the time is I kind of play this game where I'll buy something and then hold on to it and then potentially return it later, and if it comes out cheaper. Let me give you an example of exactly what I'm talking about. So Best Buy, which is my favorite store to buy brand new video games at in the United States, has a program called Gamers Club Unlocked. I've done entire videos talking about this. I think this is such a worthwhile endeavor. It's a program, it's a subscription service basically where you sign up and you get 20% off of your games. And trust me, I wish they paid me to say this. I would happily take their money, but I'm not sponsored by them. This is just like, hey guys, you want to save some money on video games? This is a great way to do it. Most of the time when you use it, or I should say all the time, if you have that service, you pay $30 and you get access to it for 2 years. And you'll get 20% off of any day one purchase. So I'm gonna use one example here of Assassin's Creed Origins, right? $60 game, and if you were to have bought it with Gamers Club Unlocked, even on day one, you would have got the game for $47, plus you would have got all the reward zone points. The points add up, and you can use them to get gift cards to save even more money, right? So that's typically how you do it. Now Black Friday is weird because they'll drop prices much more, but it's not stackable with Gamers Club Unlocked. So Assassin's Creed Origins, again, was on sale at Best Buy on Black Friday for $35, but not with the additional 20% off. So I bought it, but at the same time I'm thinking, okay, there's a very good chance, because Best Buy has a history of doing this, where in like a couple of weeks from now, right before Christmas, they might once again drop the price of Assassin's Creed Origins to $35, but because it's not Black Friday, it will be stackable with Gamers Club Unlocked. Now that's just one example. I can't promise obviously that particular game that will happen with. I'm just saying I've noticed that happen a lot over the years. So my new policy is, unless there's a special exception, anything I buy on Black Friday game-wise, I hold on to it, I hold on to the receipts, and I just kind of play the waiting game and then figure out like which one I'm gonna keep, which one I'm gonna return, and then you can save some money that way. It really usually works out pretty well. Obviously the negative of that is that you are spending more money than you might want to, but you will end up coming out ahead. You just have to play that game, assuming you have enough money to do that with. And of course, you can't actually play your games right away. You got to sit on them. So those are the negatives, but it's up to you if you wanted to do that. It's just a tip. Now that being, there was one exception to that, which was this. I picked up Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. This is a $40 game, so if I bought it at Best Buy normally, it would have been $32. Best Buy was selling it for $25 on Black Friday, and only reason I opened it was because I had to get footage of this game for a Machinima video coming up. And I beat the entire game. It takes like 3 or 4 hours, 3 if you're good, 4 if you suck. Took me more like 4. When you play games like for footage, it's a little different. It's kind of like watching movies in school. It's like you're kind of having fun, but you got to write a report on it, so it's kind of ruining it a little. So it's kind of the same thing. Like I had to get footage knowing full well I'm constructing a video, and I'm also putting the editor through hell, and it's just guilt. So whatever. Ultimately, I beat the whole game in 4 hours, and I got to tell you, it's not worth 40. It's probably not even worth 25. Like I might say 20. I liked the game, don't get me wrong, but it was like, There were certain sections of it that were too frustrating, and it is fundamentally a very short game. They tried to make that up to you a little bit by including some stickers for your controller. They also gave you some free DLC, but I would say kind of this is more like a $20 price range, especially if you're not a Sonic fan. If you're a Sonic fan, you might get more out of it. It's not a bad game, it's short, that's all. But there you go, Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. Next up, there's another store I recommend a lot in the US for buying newer games but used, and that's Gamefly. Now, I've talked about them before in the past as well. They only really sell recent gen stuff, 8th gen, 7th gen, and they have phased out most of their 6th gen stuff. But basically, you can rent games from there. It's a rental service where they'll mail you a disc and stuff. You have the option to pay to keep the disc, and then they will mail you the case with any sort of DLC codes or whatever the game might have come with. Alternatively, you can just buy games straight up at their store. Now, you don't actually have to be a member of Gamefly in order to buy stuff from their store, but if you are a member, you get coupons every couple of months, and you also get 10% off of every single game. Now, I happen to be a member because I need it for video purposes for my other channel, for Game Society, which is also eventually where that Sonic Forces video will end up. So as a result of that, I get 10% off of all the games over at Gamefly and the coupons. So they notified me I had a coupon that was about to expire, so I kind of looked around and I found this. Deponia for the PS4. This is a game I thought would be kind of cool to pick up. It's a cool indie game, and I gotta give props to the PS4 for being the friendliest place to get physical indies. Sony's been very good about that. Microsoft's always been very bad about that. Nintendo's getting better at it, much to my surprise, so that's awesome. But in this case, this was an $8 game over there, and with the $5 coupon, this was $3. $3 for Deponia. In a similar vein, going back to Best Buy, I picked up this Stardew Valley for the Xbox One. This is a $20 game, retail. So again, using all that Best Buy bullshit I was just talking about, you'd go in, this would be 16 bucks. Now, the day I went in to get it, it was on sale for 15, which is part of the reason I chose it, because $15, it's then stackable with Gamers Club Unlocked, which brought it down to 12. Now, the only reason I picked it up at that point was earlier this month, Best Buy did this thing where they were sending out free reward zone coupons to people. Now, that's where I was talking about points with Best Buy. Every time you buy stuff, you earn these points. Enough points add up, you get coupons. With video games, especially if you have Gamers Club Unlocked, you get twice as many coupons. And if you're in their Elite or Elite Plus club, you get an additional 25% of points on top of that. So those points can add up quickly for even more coupons. If you play that game, again, if you're playing that game, you can really come out ahead. So in this case, they sent everyone a mystery coupon. And pretty much everybody's mystery coupon was $5. Mine was as well. I knew because I looked up the number of it online and it said it was $5. So I walked into Best Buy, the $20 game, which was marked to 15, was 12. Then I got $5 off, so I got the game for 7. And then with that, I got 15 points. See how that all works? It's convoluted, but I'm telling you it works. But anyway, there you go. Now, this game that I got up next is not a new game at all. It's something I actually wanted to watch for a while, but not for my own purposes. More for evil purposes. I wanted this. This is Power Rangers Super Samurai for the Xbox 360 Kinect. Now, I don't like Kinect stuff. I've never made that a secret. But my other channel that I keep mentioning over here, Game Society, we do a lot of comedy videos with stuff from the Kinect because it's a lot of comedy garbage on that platform. And we really wanted to get a hold of this game to make videos about before the Power Rangers movie had come out. Yeah, I know, we're a little late, right? But obviously we failed to do that, but I didn't want to buy it online because it was like $20, $25 online. For this game, I just really didn't want to pay that. So I eventually found it this month at a store for 10. Still didn't even want to pay 10, but I don't see this game very often, and when I do, again, it's in the 20 to 25 range, so for 10, I was willing to pull the trigger. So we can do something with this eventually. It's just good to have it, and we'll make the videos later. Next up, for the Nintendo Switch, I got a very oddball release here. Retro City Rampage DX Collector's Edition. It comes with the game itself, which is still sealed in this case, as well as 2 extra little inlays in case you decide to get those. The story with this is twofold. One, V-Blank Entertainment, which I believe is the developer, in conjunction with Fangamer, which I believe is the publisher, sold this on their website. It's the first limited run type of game that Nintendo has authorized for the Switch. Not literally associated with limited run games, who also, by the way, got authorization and they will be making stuff. But Retro City Rampage did beat them to it. It will be coming, it is out now, obviously I'm holding it. That's a good and bad concept in my opinion. Good because there's these indie games that are great that never get physical editions, and through this method they get them. But it's bad because they're so limited that they drive collectors insane. Double-edged sword, man. But anyway, so yeah, this came out and I wanted to get it, but when I actually went to go buy it, I happened to be in Tokyo at the time. And I was with a buddy of mine named Fox, who I was hanging out with while I was there. And we had gone to a store in Japan and we were looking around at Switch stuff, the exclusive Japanese games. And I picked up Dragon Quest X all-in-one package, which was a big weird box that had another smaller weird box with it and a note attached, which we didn't understand what the whole point of that was until we bought it and got back, did some research on it. Basically, it was basically Square Enix kind of fucked up. Their plan was to give you a collector's edition with this like slip cover, but they made the slip cover the wrong size, so it didn't fit on the box. And rather than adjust that or recall it or whatever, they ended up just putting a note in there saying like, hey, look, we're sorry that it doesn't fit. If you want the one that fits, contact us and we'll hook you up. So Fox thought that was interesting. He was like, dude, I kind of want to get one just because that's like a weird story. And I was like, well, you could do that. And then as we were doing that research, we also found out there probably wasn't a physical cartridge inside, or cart, whatever you want to call it. And then I was like, well, wait a minute, if it doesn't have a cart, I don't actually want this. I should go return it. And he's like, no, man, open it. If it doesn't have a cart in it, I'll buy it off you. And so I was like, all right, fair enough. And so we opened it, it didn't have a cart. So don't be fooled by that release if you're into physical Switch stuff. Don't get that one, it doesn't have a cart. But what we ended up settling on was the idea that he would just buy this for me and have it shipped to me directly, and then we'd call it even. So Fox actually paid for this. Thank you very much, Fox. Now, moving on. This month, I went up to Toronto for like 2 days, 3 days, something like that. I hung out with Scott the Canadian as well as my buddy Shane, Rerez TV. I'm sure a lot of you guys already follow on YouTube. Well, after we did a live stream on there, which you can watch on this channel. After that was over, we were just going through his stuff, and he found a box of these, and he's like, oh, hey, look, you want a Super Mario Nintendo Switch charger? It's for your car. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So thank you, Shane, very much for hooking me up with that. That was very cool of you to do. More on Canadians who are trying to hook me up with stuff. Scott and I, the night before that, were wandering around. We went to a Dollarama. Now, Dollarama is just a Canadian dollar store, right? And we're looking through at all the kind of junk that they have in there, and one thing that really caught our eye was this. It is a Wii U Guitar Hero Live set. As you can see, sealed, I still have the price tag on it, $4 Canadian, which is about $3 American. Now, I actually really didn't want this. Even though I want a full Wii U set, this still didn't interest me because I have the actual like full game already, just not with the guitar. But Scott was like, dude, you're collecting Wii U stuff. This is $3 to you. You'll regret it if you don't get it. You don't even have to open it. You can just keep it a display piece somewhere. So I was like, fuck, all right, fine. So I ended up buying it. Funny thing is, I had a hard time getting it back here because it wouldn't fit in my suitcase. It wouldn't fit in my carry-on. The only thing I could do was shove it in my backpack and just kind of have it protrude out of the bag, which was like annoying to say the least. But it actually had one cool benefit. So I couldn't fit it in my bag all the way. I get on the plane and it's just hanging out of there, and I'm like putting up my bag into the like overhead compartments, and the flight attendant looks over, he's like, what you got there, man? You're a Wii U, you're a gamer? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, cool, like, where'd you get that? And I told him the story. I was like, I bought a Dollarama, it was $3, you know, whatever. And then he's just like, oh, that's so cheap, man, that's awesome. And then I go and sit down, and he's just staring at me. Like that, just like in silence for a second, just looking at me for like good 10 seconds before he finally breaks silence and goes, I'm sorry if this sounds weird to you. Are you Adam Koralik? And I was like, yes. And he was like, oh my God, dude, I watch your videos all the time. And I was like, holy shit, really? Because I wasn't expecting a flight attendant to recognize me. That was pretty fun. So we were chit-chatting on the flight and all that. And then after it was over, we were talking a lot about the Switch on the flight, and then once we landed, he had like 10 minutes in between like flights, and so I said, tell you what, we'll hang out in the terminal for a bit and you can play the Switch, because I brought it with me. So for like 10 minutes, he just sat there and played Super Mario Odyssey, so that was really cool to hang out with him for a little while. Before that, while I was still in Canada, obviously, Scott the Canadian took me around to a few different stores that we frequented before. First was We Got Games, which is run by a buddy of mine named Kamal. His primary store has been in Ajax. I've actually done videos on it before, but he's opening a new store, or has opened a new store in Mississauga, which we checked out. The grand opening at that point hadn't happened yet, but I wanted to see him, hang out for a bit, chit chat. Like, we just didn't have a whole lot of time. We were kind of bouncing from place to place to place because I wasn't going to be there very long. So yeah, Kamal's doing great. You guys should check out his store if you're ever in Mississauga, or if you're in Ajax, actually. But another store we went to was a place we usually frequent that's, you know, in Mississauga as well, a place called Buy and Sell. It's like a thrift store. It's not really a game store, but they always have like a game section, and the prices in there are usually pretty good because it's very haphazard. Sometimes stuff is like, oh, it's like $10 for a sports game, and you're like, well, that's terrible. But sometimes it's like $10 for something really rare. Like, you know, it's kind of flat rate. In this case, a lot of 360 games are like $5 just flat rate, $5 Canadian, which is like $3.50 American. And I found one game I wanted, which was this, Kango, Legend of the Nine. Now, I've seen this game many times over the years, and it's always kind of intrigued me, but I never pulled the trigger on it, usually because it's in that like 10 to 15 range, and I was just like, I don't really need that. But for essentially $3.50, hell yeah, I'll pull the trigger on that, why not? So definitely cool to pick that up. After that, we went over to Toy Rat. Now, I'm gonna actually show you a bunch of footage of Toy Rat here. Now, Toy Rat is a game store that if you've been watching me for any length of time, you already know. I have mentioned it many times. I've done various videos on it. It is a fantastic game store in Milton, Ontario, Canada. And as you can see, just looking at the footage of this place, like it has insane levels of inventory. And I really regret now that I didn't also film footage at We Got Games. I should have done that. I wasn't thinking, man. Like I said, I was bouncing from place to place to place like really quick because I was on such limited time. But that idea really kind of more popped into my head when I was actually walking around Toy Rat. There won't be any like dedicated video to it this time though, just because again, I wasn't there for very long. So I just kind of got some like quick point shoot footage bullshit, and then I was like, all right, I guess I'm good. You know, like I didn't know what else I was gonna do with it. I just wanted to get something. So I figured I would show you guys here and now. But again, really good video game store. Highly recommend checking it out if you ever get that chance. They usually focus on the dude, first of all, the dude who runs it is like one of the nicest guys ever. Like he always cuts me incredible deals on things. And I know he does that for other people too. It's not like just a me thing or anything. And especially if you're willing to pay cash, he'll always give you extra deals and discounts and stuff. He's always willing to talk to you about the price of the games and all that kind of stuff. He's a hell of a good dude. Mostly he focuses obviously on video games, but also he sells vinyl records, comic books, movies, you know, there's all sorts of stuff in there. There's just there's a lot of great treasures in there, just things you've never seen before or you haven't seen since like a long time ago. All sorts of just really, really cool stuff. And so I always love checking that place out. Speaking of this store though, there were some things I got from there, which I didn't know if that was gonna happen. I mostly just went in to just pop in, say hi, and you know, that was about it. But while I was there, obviously Scott and I wanted to look around. And I had Scott looking for a game for the better part of like 6 months. The last 6 months I've had him looking for something, but he was never able to find it. And funny enough, he's the one who found it when we were in the store. What he ended up finding was this. This is a game called Asterix at the Olympic Games. Now I'm sure to a lot of Europeans, you guys just kind of winced, and you're gonna wince again. I'm pretty sure this is from a franchise called Asterix and Obelix. And you have every right to be offended and upset with me, but you have to understand, this franchise, these characters, I'm vaguely familiar with them. The one thing I know about them for sure is they were very popular in European countries. They were not popular in the US. They've barely ever existed here. They have shown up in a couple of bits of media here and there throughout the years, but really, I would bet you the vast majority of people, if I walked down the street and said, do you know who these characters are, they would say no. Just because they didn't have much relevance in the United States. Obviously, they must have been more successful in Canada, which gets to the point. This game is a Canadian exclusive, which is very strange because, of course, the US and Canada pretty much have everything identical when it comes to video games. It's very rare for one country to get something that the other does not. But in this case, probably because those characters are just not successful here at all, the Canadians got it and we didn't. So I had Scott looking for it, but he was never able to find it until that day at Toy Rat, which was great. So I obviously wanted to pick it up because I have a thing for collecting games from other countries and other regions, stuff I can't get at home. I just like that. I think it's interesting. It's more fun to look for stuff that is exclusive and special to that area. I have no idea if this game itself is any good or not, and I believe it probably also came out in Europe, but as far as the American quote-unquote version, that only came out in Canada. But yeah, so very cool to have that. Next up, I was wandering around his new like VHS extended store. That's what he's working on now. And he has a bunch of his video game inventory sitting over there because the store's still under construction. And I was just kind of like digging through some stuff and I saw something and I was like, what's this? And he's like, it's yours. That's what it is. So he just gave this to me. This was for free. This is an Xbox light gun. Now at first they may not sound like a big deal. You know, it's a green light gun, right? The Xbox had a green light gun. Let's move on. No, it's a little bit more interesting than that. So the original Xbox, as far as I know, only had like 2 games that supported light guns. It was House of the Dead 3 and the Silent Scope Complete Edition or whatever that was. I'm pretty sure the only 2. If there's any more, please feel free to tell me. I've, for years, been under the impression that the only light gun that existed on it was the green Mad Catz gun, which I actually don't even have. Then I went to Osaka, Japan, and at Super Potato, they had this other Japanese OG Xbox light gun that looks like a real gun. And I've shown it before, and I really wanted to get it. Problem is customs. I would never have been able to successfully get that through, so I didn't even consider trying. So when we were walking around the store and I saw this, I was like, what the hell? Because this is not that Mad Catz gun. This is one by Game Elements by Gemini. I've never heard of this before. I don't know if it's valuable or anything like that. I don't know if it's a Canadian exclusive or what the deal with it is. If anybody has information, I'd love to know. All I know is I'd never seen it before. I had no idea it existed, yet here it is in my hands, a light gun for the original Xbox. I didn't know. And moving on, the last thing I got at Toy Rat was something that the second I saw it, and Scott can attest to this, I like flipped out. I'm like, that has to come with me. I need that shit in my life. It's coming with me. I don't care. I need this. And the funny thing is I'd never even seen it before. I didn't even know it was a thing. It was this, Dreamcast VGA box. And I'm sure you're like, dude, you get Dreamcast VGA boxes all the time. Why the fuck would you care about that? I've seen so many videos. Well, thank you for being a fan, by the way, if you've seen that many videos. But yes, I do a lot of videos on different Dreamcast VGA boxes and all this stuff, like what would I need this thing for at this point? Practically, no, I don't need it for any practical reason. This was purely collector's reason, because I saw it and I went, holy shit, it says Dreamcast on it. Now, Dreamcast is a little nugget of history here. In like 2003, 2004, there was a Chinese company, I think it was Golden Shop Hong Kong. I don't know if they were actually the producers or what the deal was, but somebody, at least I think Golden Shop sold them along with Licksang, the ill-fated Licksang that was shut down by Sony over PSP sales or something like that. Whatever. But anyway, they made this thing called the Dreamcast. It was basically Japanese Dreamcasts they had been gutting and putting into a different shell. They had been putting a region-free mod chip in them and stuff, and it was just a region-free Dreamcast with a screen built in. I actually own one. It's a pretty neat little thing. I've done a video on it too. But it had no practical purpose other than just being amusing, because it wasn't very reliable. If you watch my video, I show that. But apparently, over the years, they had made accessories for it too. It got its own brand of controllers, it got its own brand of memory cards, and apparently its own VGA box. I didn't know this existed until I saw it right there in front of me. So I was like, that's why I need this. This is just cool. It's an oddball Dreamcast thing, and I don't get to see those very often because, you know, first world problems. I already have like every Dreamcast thing ever, right? Sorry, so sorry for myself. But yeah, so I really wanted to get this just because it was bizarre. And then after I got it, I did a little bit of research on it. And I could definitely be wrong about this, but I couldn't find any for sale anywhere. All I could see was a couple of failed eBay listings, and every single one of them was from Canada. And I get the feeling that some dude owned this and kept trying to sell it and couldn't, and eventually just sold it to Toy Rat, and it's in my hands. Beyond that, I have not seen this anywhere else online except for the aforementioned Golden Shop Hong Kong. Their page had the most information about this thing. And what I've come to understand is this thing is a complete relic of history. It has no point now, but apparently, and I didn't even know this actually taught me something about the Dreamcast I did not know. In around that time, 2003, 2004, of course, that's when burned games for the Dreamcast were like at the height of their popularity. What I didn't know is that around then is when people were figuring out, oh, hey, there's this VGA thing, and it makes the games look really good. You could play all these burned games for free, and you could play them on your, your computer screen, and they look great. At least that was the plan. But as it turns out, most burn games disabled it or would not work with it, usually because back then that was before self-boot, so they required things like Utopia to launch them. And Utopia would disable VGA support, so you couldn't use it. This was the only VGA box on the market that was specifically designed to bypass that problem. You would turn it on, you would turn on Utopia boot disk, I guess, and at a certain point after that, you'd flip a switch here, and then VGA mode would be enabled on your burned games. This was the only one that allowed you to do that. Has absolutely no point at all in 2017. Still, I thought it was cool as shit, and I just like that story, and so I'm happy to have it for that reason. So thank you, Toy Rat, because he gave me a nice deal on that. Of course, the gun itself was free, but also the other stuff was cheap too, so it was very cool of him to do that. Now, right after I got back from Toronto, the next day I had to go up to Wisconsin, and I had to film. I filmed a thing where I was a zombie and I got to ride around in a DeLorean, as you can see here. That was a childhood dream come true, riding around in a DeLorean. I've always wanted to do that. That was awesome as hell. And then the day after that, I was sent out to Amsterdam. Amsterdam, like, you know, in the Netherlands. And so while I was there for a week, and while I was there, I thought, well, while I'm here, I should check out the video game store scene. Now, I got to tell you, the Netherlands was great. I mean, I can only speak for Amsterdam specifically because that's the only part I was in. Great city, very small, much smaller than I would have expected. Population of like 830,000, something like that. Very walkable city, very nice city, very easy to get around, all that kind of stuff. Also very odd culturally because it's the only city where I was repeatedly confused for being a local. The thing is, I've noticed, again, I'm not from the Netherlands. I've never been any other part of the Netherlands. I'm certainly not Dutch, but that's the only part I've been to. And I noticed an odd trend that it feels like an extension of the United States or the extension of the UK because English seems to be the predominant first language of that city. It's everywhere. I very rarely saw anyone speak Dutch. And like every place I went to, people default into English. Even like the customs agent, when I got there and I went through customs, the guy opened in English and he opened with an American accent. He even asked if I was a citizen of the Netherlands before looking at my passport. It was bizarre. And from what I can tell, that's because a lot of people who got the accent there learned it from American films. But that's just, I mean, if you're from there, please, I could, you know, definitely use more information. But that's as much as I got. And socially, man, everywhere I walked, everyone's speaking English. Like everyone. Various accents, of course, but I've really almost never heard anybody speak Dutch. It was bizarre. Nevertheless, I'm not complaining. It was cool. I've never been in a country that's not supposed to have English as its first language and had that level of confidence of just anywhere I walk into, I'll just speak English and they're going to understand me. Every other country I go to where I know the first language is not English, I try to learn enough that I can like get through the beginning of a conversation. There, it was never necessary. It's bizarre, but anyway, that's not the point of this. The point is the video games, right? Now, as cool of a city as it is, it's not really a video game city. There's only 5 stores in that entire city that I found anyway, that are places I would recommend to go and try and find some video games at. The first one and best one is a store called Game Over. It's right by Amsterdam Central Station, which you'll probably go through. If you ever go to Amsterdam, you're probably gonna end up at that station at some point because all foot traffic and ground traffic seems to go through it. The store, I wanted to do a video on it, but it wasn't the right environment. The store is too close to the station, there's too much foot traffic, it's small, there's a lot of people in there, and aesthetically anyway, a lot of stuff is behind like wooden cases, I mean cabinets, like drawers, and is locked, so you can't really see much of what's in there. There's stuff in glass cases, which is perfectly fine. And there's a lot of stuff in like plastic tubs like behind where the owner is, which is not a bad thing. The guy was incredibly friendly, don't get the wrong impression. Like, I wanted OG Xbox games, so I asked him and he brought out like 5 tubs of OG Xbox games and he let me look through all of them, but that's not something you can really film. Like, it just didn't really work. So I ended up just kind of getting a photo of the outside of it, and I do recommend checking it out if you're in the area though. It does have some cool stuff. And it is definitely, if you're into retro gaming, it is the #1 store in that city. So I ended up getting a couple of things from there. The first thing I got was a game called Center Court Tennis for the N64. This is an oddball because there was only 7 games released in Europe for the N64 that North America never got, 3 of which also came out in Japan, but I typically prefer European versions of games over Japanese versions because European versions typically are translated into English, whereas Japanese versions often are not. So it's, you know, and then there's 4 games that were totally exclusive to Europe. This is funny because this is one of the rarer ones. This is also one of the ones that also came out in Japan. this game, I was very happy with that purchase because it was like 20 euros, and online it's like selling for 60. So I was happy to get that, and that means I'm only actually one away from all of the PAL exclusives. I mean, even though technically 3 of them come out in Japan. N64 games. The only one I'm missing is Airborder 64, I think it is. That's the only one I still need. Next up, another, in the same vein of bizarre exclusives for Nintendo platforms in Europe, I got this. This is Kokoto Platform Jumper for the Nintendo GameCube. The GameCube also didn't fare very well in Europe as far as exclusive content goes. I think there was only 6 GameCube games that came out in Europe that North America never got. And of those 6, I have 2. The other one I have is Doshin the Giant, which actually came out in Japan. This one is truly, legitimately only exclusive to Europe, and maybe Australia, I'm not sure about that. But Australia gets lumped in with Europe as if it's part of it when it comes to video games, even though obviously it really couldn't be further away, geographically anyway. But anyway, so yeah, I got that. I was happy to pick that up. I couldn't find much information on this. Anything I found about it was pretty much from the PlayStation 2 version. All I could find was acknowledgement that the GameCube version existed. But again, it was 20 euros. I was happy to pay that because is it worth more? Probably. But, you know, fuck it. I'm there. I'm going to pick it up now. I'm happy about it. So there you go. Got that. Those are my pickups from Game Over. Now the other stores that exist there are chains. There's 2 stores called CEX, which I've mentioned before in the past. I don't know if I did full videos on them, but I've shown them in other European countries. It's a used media store. They sell DVDs, Blu-rays, games, that kind of thing. And so I went to one that was close to me that really didn't have anything, and then I went to a further away one. And that was interesting because I actually met up with I want to thank him here. I met up with a guy named Daniel who was a fan of the channel. He knew I was in Amsterdam and he wanted to hang out for a bit. And I feel a little bad because I was only really able to hang out with him for like a half hour because the day we had coordinated to meet up, we said, well, we'll meet up at the CEX and then maybe we'll do something after that. That same day, my girlfriend got food poisoning, and I was like, "Oh shit, I should really take care of her." And she was like, "You know, just go get your video games and stuff, and then whatever, we'll hang out later." And I was like, while she seemed totally cool with it, it was just that guilt inside. I was like, "Do I really leave her here? She's like throwing up and stuff," and I'm just like, "See ya, babe. I'm gonna go get some fucking video games." Like, you just feel like an asshole. So I went, and I actually picked up some stuff, but then I started guilt sitting in, even though she never guilted me about it. She said it was fine. But, and I don't mean that like girl way, it's fine. I mean like she actually didn't care. She was actually fine with it, but I still felt bad. So, you know, went back. So sorry, Daniel, that's why I was really only there for like a half hour. That said, I did pick up a couple of things at that second CEX. The first one I got is a game called One Piece Unlimited World Red Deluxe Edition for the Nintendo Switch. This might seem a little familiar because I picked up the Japanese version of this last month when I was in Tokyo, and I showed it to you guys, and you guys all told me, hey, you know, there's a European version. And I was like, fuck. So while I was suddenly thrown into being in the Netherlands, which again, like I said, seems like English is almost the first language there, and in Amsterdam anyway, because this is fully in English. Like there's no evidence of Dutch anywhere on this. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll pick that up. It's for like 40 euros, which I didn't really want to pay that, but that was cheaper than what it was going for, and whatever. So I was happy to have it, just get it off the list there. And the other one I got was an OG Xbox exclusive. I've mentioned many times now, I want to get a full OG Xbox set. I have all the Asian stuff. I have a nice chunk of the American stuff, and I'm almost done with the European stuff. And so I was able to chip away at a lot of it here. They had one I needed, which was UEFA or UEFA Champions League 2004-2005. We had a game in this franchise here for the Xbox, but not this particular one. Sadly, what I'm missing is mostly sports games. Mostly of what Europe got for the OG Xbox that we didn't was sports games. Yeah, so I just thought I'd pick it up. It was only 50 cents. So it was great to get that. So it's good to have that off of the list. And that was all I got at CEX. The next place I went to was a place called Game Mania. Now, Game Mania is basically like GameStop. It's where you go to buy like newer games, but there were 2 locations. There was one that was pretty far from me that was a nicer, bigger location, but it really had absolutely nothing I needed. And then there was the one closer to me, or at least what I should say where I was staying, and it had what they call a junk bin, but really it was everything they had left for the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube was sitting in there. And so I went through with a fine-tooth comb, hoping to get lucky on some OG Xbox exclusives. I only got one, but I picked it up, which was LMA Manager 2005. I already have 2003 and 2004. I don't have 2006. But yeah, I was happy to get that. And I was actually really thrilled to see the junk bin in general, because something I've noticed about European game stores is they don't really work the same way American ones do. American game stores, it seems to be universal that sports games are junk that nobody wants. American game stores will typically isolate those games and put them into a corner in like a junk box somewhere. And you can just go pick them up for pennies. But I noticed in a lot of European game stores, they don't seem to do that. They tend to throw them away. Now, Game Mania obviously was some sort of exception to this, but so I benefited from it. But yeah, in general, they don't seem to do that, which is unfortunate because a lot of places just, I go in for OG Xbox and they just don't have any, or the ones they have are the same heavy hitters being like, you know, Halo. It's like, I don't need Halo. I need fucking Element Manager 2006. Motherfucker, where is it? That never comes up for some reason. But yeah, so whatever. And then I got 4 other OG Xbox games, but these were under different circumstances. Do you guys remember Orion? He's a developer. He made a bunch of indie Dreamcast games. I'm actually an NPC in one of his games. He contacted me. He no longer develops games. He now works at a game store in France. He contacted me a while back and he was like, hey man, so I'm running this game store now, or I'm working in a game store. I don't remember if he's running it or working in it. He contacted me. He's like, I know you're looking for original Xbox exclusives. You want to send me a list? I'll see what I have. So I sent him a list. And he's like, all right, I got these 4. Do you want them? I'll cut you a deal. And he did. He gave me a pretty good deal on those. And he said, I can ship them to you in the US, but that'll be kind of expensive. Or if you have a European address, I can ship it to you, but I'll just do that for free. And so I gave him my girlfriend's address, and he shipped them there. And then she brought them to Amsterdam, and because she lives in Portugal. And so she brought these along. So this is what I ended up getting from Orion, basically. David Beckham Soccer, Ski Racing 2005, Ski Racing 2006, and F1 Career Challenge. Obviously, none of these Xbox games are particularly good. That's not the point. The point is, you're collecting stuff. That's part of the fun. I know a lot of people always like, I see these comments all the time like, there's so many games there that are junk that I would never play, and even by your own admission, you'll probably never play. Why the fuck are you buying them? You have to understand, collecting is a little different from the games you intend to play. Collecting kind of becomes the game. It's kind of, it's like a throwback to hunting. I don't hunt, you know, and but that gene is still in there, right? So hunting a video game that I'm like, oh shit, I want to find that one. That's the fun of it. I know that's bizarre. That's not everybody's thing, but that's my thing. I enjoy doing that, and especially when they're like cheap games, it's fun. And then ultimately you feel gratification for completing a set. That's the reward. Obviously that won't make sense to everybody, but to me that's fun. And that's the game. I enjoy that. And of course there's plenty of good games you actually get to play along the way. Now, we have one last we have one last pickup, and this one is kind of bizarre. So this requires a series of explanations. I came back from Amsterdam and I was going through my mail and I had a package and it was a very particular shape, so there was really only one thing it could be. But then I was like, well, I didn't order anything of that particular concept. Why would that be here? Then I looked at the return address and it was from eBay. I'm like, well, I definitely didn't buy anything off eBay. What the hell is this? I'm sitting there thinking like, is this something I need to do a video on? I'm not remembering, what's the deal? I couldn't process it. So I just gave up and I opened up the package and I saw inside and I was like, oh fuck, because that really doesn't make sense. So what it was this. This is a vinyl record for Sonic Mania. Now Sonic Mania is an awesome game. And it's funny because this is something I wanted. I actually, when this was announced, when it was first up for sale, I wanted to go buy it. But by the time I got over to the website, they were all sold out. And so I was like, well, fuck, I missed it. But that was the extent of it. I never went public with that information. I never said like, damn it, the record's up for sale and I missed it. Like, this is a thing Data Discs put out, and I've had most of the ones in their series. I just happened to miss this one, but I never ever acknowledged it. I didn't put out a tweet. I didn't put out a Facebook post. I didn't casually mention it in any sort of video. I never said shit about it. So why the fuck was it in my mail? I couldn't figure that out for the longest time. And then eventually, long story short, I did. Turns out, do you guys know the name Corey Marsh? He's a fan of mine. The name should sound familiar. He sent me a couple things over time. He's also mentioned in every podcast I do every single month because he's a Patreon backer, which, if funny enough, if you want to do that, all the information's down there. Do you even know I have a Patreon? I do. You can do that, and you get early access to videos. You can be on the podcast. Like, there's all sorts of stuff there. It's a completely voluntary thing. You don't have to do it. But anyway, so he is part of that. He subscribes to that. So that's why you might have heard his name. Anyway, so he didn't tell me he was sending this. And he didn't know I even wanted it. So it was fucking weird because he essentially read my mind that I wanted it, couldn't get it, and fucking here it is. It was bizarre. So thank you very much, Corey, for doing that. That was really nice of you. So yeah, thank you, Corey. Thank you to Orion. Thank you to Daniel. Thank you to Scott. Thank you to Shane. Thank you to Toy Rat. Thank you to Kamal. Thank you to Fox. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all later.